Furina could be the answer to all of our problems. My name's Kazahana, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the new Hydro character, or to be more specific, the Hydro Archon Furina, and discuss whether it's worth pulling her and using up your primos by giving you some easy to follow pros and cons to help you with your decision. Although it's a week late, Genshin delivered such a massive special program for version 4.2, with one of the major additions being Furina, and boy they did not disappoint. With it looking like Furina's going to be an excellent sub DPS / support character that can really just increase the whole damage output of your team. And if her kit isn't enough for you, just look at her character design. She is definitely one of the best looking characters in the game, especially with her being able to change colour, and not to mention her weapon as well, which is just perfect. Let's start with the pros for Furina. When talking about Furina, we also have to bring up the conversation of other characters, with it in this case being Yelan and Xingqiu, who are already some incredible characters, with them being able to deal a ton of hydro damage and consistently, making it great for many different teams including Vaporise and Freeze, where these characters can be optimally used. And this is no issue for Furina, as her hydro application is pretty decent, and the most important part being that she can actually deal AoE damage, whereas Yelan and Xingqiu can only do single target damage, making Furina much more useful in these teams. But it also does make these other characters redundant, as Furina can work super well with Yelan and Xingqiu to pretty much keep a consistent application of hydro, which I'm just itching to try out with a character like Hu Tao, as it would allow to evade pretty much every attack, which obviously would be a huge benefit for your team. But there's also another super strong reason why she'll work even better than the older hydro characters, and it's all because she's able to provide up to a 75% damage boost. And no, it's not some random elemental damage boost, this is damage boost period, which can fluctuate a little bit with the boost sometimes being much lower, with the highest being 75, meaning that Furina's going to be an absolutely insane character that can boost a character's damage regardless of who they are. And I mean, there is a reason why they say Kazuha is one of the best characters in the game, and it's for this very reason, meaning that Furina could be joining him up there. And while having this huge buff, she can also deal an insane amount of damage, can heal, and apply hydro, making her a very versatile character. And like I mentioned before, Yelan and Xingqiu won't be left behind, as Furina will more than likely need a hydro battery that can help provide energy, and also a healer who can manage the health of other characters in the party, as although Furina's abilities do include healing, it's not quite at the level where she can safely look after other party members. Other characters like the Raiden Shogun can also work pretty great with her, as she can also provide a ton of energy for your team, and it also works out pretty well, especially if you want to run a team like Hyperbloom, which is a very popular team at the moment, especially for clearing the Spiral Abyss. And with it being a while since we've seen the Shogun, we could be expecting a banner anytime soon, which you can pull on. Along with all this kit, Furina could also prove to be a pretty good unit for free-to-play players, with her flexibility as a character, which granted, she isn't extremely flexible, but she has it where it counts. And I mean, a lot of Hydro units do tend to be pretty free-to-play friendly anyways. And although her 5-star weapon is absolutely amazing for her, and I definitely do recommend pulling for it, she has a couple of free-to-play options which can also work pretty well, including Festering Desire, which I know is a weapon that only a lot of the old players of Genshin will have, but that doesn't take away from how good it can be as an alternative, with it giving her an elemental skill damage boost, which is where most of her damage comes from. Okay, that's enough of the many pros that Furina has. It's time to look at the cons. Now I will mention that none of these cons are exactly game breaking, so before you rush to the comments, a lot of these cons mentioned aren't even much of a problem. Firstly, although that Furina's kit is extremely versatile, she is quite limited on team comps, purely for the reason of her health. Furina's health, if you didn't know, actually fluctuates a lot, almost exactly like Neuvillette's. And although it's super useful for Furina, as it can boost her damage especially with her signature weapon, it's also a curse, as it can sometimes make her not super viable for certain teams, which obviously isn't great. But as we saw with Neuvillette, sometimes that doesn't matter, and they're just so overpowered that you can just run them solo in the final floor of the Abyss. As although she'll be able to do a ton of damage, she might end up being out of action quite a lot, especially if you don't run a healer alongside her who'll be able to keep Furina and her teammates stable while fighting. But there is a benefit, especially if you're a whale. As Hoiverse have cleverly placed Baiju on the banner with Furina, meaning that you have a great pullable option who can work super well with the Hydro Archon. But I also understand that we don't all have the money to be pulling for both the characters and the weapon. But other characters like Kokomi and other soul healers can work just as good too. Another issue could be that rotations could be a little bit harder to pull off, as your team will need to take damage in order to do more damage, meaning that you'll more than likely get staggered, which obviously makes it much harder to pull off a rotation, especially as we haven't fully explored Furina's kit in game. So this may be actually resolved, and this goes for a lot of the cons I'm talking about, because we do actually have very limited information on her. When you weigh out both the pros and cons, it's very easy to see that Furina's going to be an amazing character, and will be a very useful pull for any player in Genshin, with her doing such a large amount of damage, providing burst to teammates, healing, and consistent hydro application. And it's clear that although Furina doesn't work in every team comp, she excels in the ones she can work with, and I'm so excited to give her a try, as she can work with many old and new characters, including Neuvillette. So if you thought he was already strong, you should see him doing damage with Furina's 75% buff. And I know I mentioned it before, but I have to again, because it's definitely vital to the way she plays in her kit. Definitely, I swear, I promise. And that's her character design and playstyle, which is just absolutely beautiful, and blows many of the current Genshin characters out of the water. Get it? Like water, she's the hydro... Never mind. But anyways, her model is super detailed, and compared to the ancient D-Look model from when the game first came out, she looks so much better. And I know that there are many players that just play for the aesthetic, so Furina is definitely for you. And in terms of playstyle, if you're looking for a great hydro sub DPS / support that can provide a ton of damage, buffs, healing, and a ton more that I mentioned, then she is definitely worth every last one of your primos. And it's not often that I get to say this, but there are many subjective characters that just kind of sit on the fence of being good or not. But Furina, I can safely say, is going to be worth your primo gems. And I'm 100% going to be pulling for her and her weapon, as Genshin have really outdone outdone themselves here. And no, I'm definitely not pulling her for her character design, which is super great and cute. And anyways, I hope this video helped you with your decision on whether you're pulling for Furina. And remember to take into account everything, even the cons, as there may be some situations where Furina might not be right for you, which is totally okay. So if you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to leave a like, and let me know down in the comments whether you're going to be pulling for Furina, as I love to see what the community thinks about these characters and their kits. And also don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. That's all. See ya!